I've just woken up and it's around 5:40 and they dropped the Raiden trailer. Oh my god, I was not expecting this. Alright, let's have a look. I have to, don't I? Starting now. Oh my god, we actually get to see the kids inside you, and we also get to see... Oh, that's the death of the snake. Due to the snake, there's the Oni losing themselves to the abyss. Oh, fox, and there she is alone. Oh, oh, look at her. Oh, poor lass. Oh. Is that an illusion of her previous self, or... Yeah, that looks like how she used to be. Huh. Or is that meant to be the previous Archon? She's completely alone. Oh. Hey! You remember what I said about the idea that she took away everything because all she's felt lately is kind of pain? Yeah, I stand by that. I'm gonna have to freeze frame on that and have a look at this other character that she was reaching out for. It was either herself or someone else, but now her idea of eternity is something where she's completely isolated, meaning that dimension would have, well, that domain of her place likely looked very different before. Interesting. Okay. I want to have a look back. Let's just scroll a little more. Yeah, it's very much her. So she was reaching out to a previous version of herself. But the story behind these characters is the image we see at the panel involving... Let's have a look. Yeah, we see her killing the snake and the idea of nothingness appearing. The Tengu warrior who disappeared died during that battle, and it's mentioned in the Sangonomiya Chronicles. And then after, we see the Oni losing themselves to the abyss, because that's the thing, that Oni was on her side, and we know that Baal gave her a sword as a sign of her faith and everything, and in the end she ended up attacking her, and Baal didn't kill her, it doesn't seem, based on what we know about the events, but she did defeat her and the Oni ran. Stillness. And then we know the fox also lost itself to the abyss. So she's lost everyone of value to her. And we can actually see briefly in that panel before it seems to stop, the foxes appearing around. We see the tanuki, we see the sorts of birds. We see, yeah, the combat with the abyss and all these creatures, and well as Baal fighting to defend Inazuma. And then we see poor girl on her own. The price of eternity, it seems. Oh, it really is shit though, that's the thing. And we can see that's very likely just Baal before, when she wasn't alone. Because her hair's tied slightly different as well, which is nice. Her kimono seems different. So her attire's changed over the time. So it's kind of like she's given up the version of herself that she was. Her hair seemed to always be a bit more coloured. She doesn't have the streaks in it either, based on what we can see there. It's strange. She's surprised by it as well. Surprised at seeing this iteration, because I'd assume it has to be her. That version of herself no longer exists because she's so alone. And now here we are with the Baal who's willing to enact taking visions towards the eternity that she now imagines is one filled with loneliness because she's lost everybody. Something unchanging. Her idea of eternity shifted because she remained alone. And this is the thing, she's the only one of the gods so far that we've met who's really suffered with this issue. Zhongli, all the companions he had were mostly Adepti and other, entities like Ishtar who don't die from age. Like, that kind of applies to Baal, but eventually she would have lost them. But the way she ended up losing them was far worse. It would have been better if these people died from age, because at least then she wouldn't be pained by their loss. But that didn't happen. Instead, her Tengu got taken by the fight with the snake. The Oni that she befriended ended up being corrupted by the Abyss. The Kitsune Saiju died during the combat with the Abyss. Whether that involved corruption or not's another story, but we know she lost herself as well. The only one who seems somewhat stable is Baal, and there's a chance that if Scaramouche actually comes from her, that this has caused her some quite big separation issues, because the thing is, in Japanese mythology, kami it's the closest translation to god, but they're not like godlike entities that are born as godlike entities. They can be born from anything supernatural. We're talking supernatural events. Even human spirits can become kami. So we're thinking on the planes of associating it to gods that have always existed, but when it comes to Japan, it's not the same, because new beings are born and everything within nature can have a soul. So imagine if you, think Izanagi crying created kami. So imagine what the pain or the severance of potentially anxiety and pain would create. It'd create another god of sorts. Not the same on your level, but still. That's what I imagine Scaramouche is. To me, he's likely the severance of all of Baal's feelings, and that's made him, because it's mentioned that people are suddenly aging. That's likely him. It's probably not her. And it makes me wonder how weak or strong she really is. Like, obviously her Archon powers are still intact. We fight her face on, but emotionally and mentally, there's a lot of questions on how stable she is as an entity now. All I know is I feel really bad for her, and I'm glad that I maintained and looked into stuff myself instead of thinking, oh, there's only one side to this story, she's a fucking bitch, oh, she killed Kazuha's friend. No, there's reasons behind most things, and unfortunately, when it comes to a being that's potentially lived longer than we can suffer a lot in a human lifespan. Imagine how much suffering she's potentially endured. I am to main this woman anyway. I am on Polygon this girl, and I am on streaming my experience, as well as then streaming my experience through going through 2.1. Hopefully I'll see you guys there, and we can enjoy Baal's story together, because she'll be getting a story, which is great. Obviously she'll have her voice lines and other things to contextualize her motives and ideas, which I'm looking forward to. And then I get to have fun, potentially using her to fuck up Signora breaking into our house. Because I want to know why she's there. Because when it comes to Signora being in Baal's house, there are two options that are mainly available. Either one, the Raiden Shogun and its forces, so the Shogunate, are in alliance with the Fatui, which I don't think is the case. Or two, she's gone in there to get Baal's Gnosis. And we see Baal actually stood in the background behind the boss. So either we go in there and get involved before she has the chance to even fight Baal, because otherwise I don't imagine she'd be standing still, because I do think that Signora could potentially die. This is something that's an idea. Signora could end up being killed by Baal, because I don't imagine any of the gods just taking that kind of abuse, and we know that Venti was the weakest of them. Because he didn't maintain his people's faith while people actively believe in the Raiden Shogun. Just like they did in Morax, but Morax grew tired of his position. Baal isn't tired of being the god of Inazuma. She's sick of being alone. And has cut away her feelings potentially just to avoid feeling that pain anymore. It's a very real thing. Hell, some people avoid meeting others in the first place to avoid feeling that sort of bullshit pain. To to avoid feeling that sort of pain in the first place. So yeah, no. I completely get where she's coming from, and that's the thing that's really sad, is people are saying, oh, she needs to be humanized and she needs to be redeemed. No, she doesn't really, because there are some awful people out there, but at the end of the day, even if they make her motives clear, it doesn't make what she's doing right or wrong. Her ideas don't match up to the ideas of every other person. Someone will find what she is doing is wrong regardless. The thing is, though, the people who find it wrong are a very small percentage of the people in Inazuma. And yeah, she could be doing it for completely selfish reasons. But even if she is, after everything she's done for them, I feel like if she can accept the worst in her own people, then they should be able to accept the worst in her. And I do think, though, that Kazuha and her having a discussion after all this mess would be exceptionally powerful. But that's just my take. Hopefully you guys didn't mind this. It's over bloody... It's around 5 times the length of the actual video I just watched, but hopefully there's something fun to take from it. But God, that made me kind of depressed. Poor Baal. And that doesn't make up for her actions now. I'm not someone who actively defends every little thing the character does. I think that the character's writing right now, she is doing fucked up stuff. Right now she's doing something pretty damn cold towards like a good chunk of her people. And we don't, in some cases, yes, removing the visions has actually benefited some people. Like, some people haven't lost their drive, but others did, and we've seen cases of the ones who have. But as said, not all of them have. There are 2 characters within the game that are addressed in billboards, which is someone who competed with Kujo-Sara, who is also mentioned in voice lines of other characters. I'm trying to think of the name, it's really escaping me. And then there's the guy in the Komori Tea House that I showed on one of my own videos, because he lost his to a duel against Ayato, and he's fine. He's, if anything, glad to be rid of the vision. So it's not to prevent people ascertaining godhood, or that's at least not what it seems to be, because obviously she knows the same thing that Venti does, because he even says it's something kept by gods, a secret, that having a vision can lead to them ascending and becoming gods. They don't become archons, they just become godlike anyway. Which is the funny part, so it doesn't mean they'd be usurped, it means more of their own kind would exist. So there's no actual benefit to them not wanting that unless they fear losing their position. Because all it'd mean is they'd potentially have more company, which is kind of nice, if anything. Especially for someone like Baal, who's really fucking lonely now. Well, that's the thing. It's not out of something of keeping the divine to the divine. I do think it could play a part in it for other reasons, maybe because humans have mishandled the power, but in the first place, when she was softer towards people and when she really did care for her nation and everything in it, which is likely still the case, but she seems to just have stopped feeling in general. The thing is, if that is the case, then it would have benefited her for people to have had the visions that eventually ascended. We'd see more gods within Inazuma who she would be able to get to know. She would have company. But it just doesn't seem to have happened. The sort of people who seem to ascend into godhood seem to be really quite rare. Because when Venti returned, he saw Vanessa as a bird. As a bird. I want to like specify hawk or eagle, but I don't know exactly what she turned into. She just turned into a big bird of prey. That's all I know. It's like I've seen the image. It doesn't really help me. I'm not a fanatic on birds. I'd have to look into it. But he has the one person that he kind of fought to. The only person who, in his case, he seemed to really care about, who never came back, is the boy he takes the appearance of, who died in the battle to try and free Mondstadt. Meanwhile, yet again, Zhongli has almost all of his acquaintances that weren't human. And he knows he can go to them and speak to them if he needs to. He doesn't seem to feel that loneliness either. He felt pained at what happened over Ashtahar, but he didn't ever seem to feel this crippling loneliness or isolation that Baal does. And she's stuck feeling like that for eternity until someone new comes in her life that she can connect to. Because unlike most, she is an eternal being. And the thing that's sad is, by being so close to her and wishing for the same thing she did, which is the defense of Inazuma, all of the people she could come in contact with risk being either killed in the line of defense of Inazuma or being corrupted, like both the Oni and potentially the Kitsune Saiju, or just losing themselves to the abyss like the Kitsune Saiju did. So, what would be the point if you feel like everyone you could ever meet could be gone? It's a shame, but it is a very realistic train of thought, and it's something I do pity because here's the thing, I can kind of empathize with some of it. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the Genshin streams once Neo the World Ends Review is done, and /or when the first hits. If Baal's banner is on day 1, I'm pulling on it with all of my savings, and if she's good enough, I may end up spending money, which I fear, but I may end up. I won't reject the possibility. So, hopefully that will be a fun ride for everyone else involved. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Have fun, guys.